All right, hello everybody. We're here at AAMI Nexus 2026, day 3, and I'm here with a face that almost every one of you is going to recognize. This is our good friend Terra Kremer. Terra is the co-chair of Working Group 95, which is focused on the quality of water for reprocessing. And Terra, I'm sure everybody goes, oh, that's the ST108 lady.
Absolutely.
But now you are also the Sterilization Science Awards lady. So congratulations on being our second ever winner of the Sterilization Science Award. And that's really recognized for a whole bunch of stuff. But let's lead with ST108, because I mentioned it. People may not know what I'm talking about. What is that document and why was it such a big deal?
So ST108 was a conversion of TIR 34, which was the document that was originally drafted to help healthcare facilities have the appropriate water quality for the processing of reusable medical devices. So 34 moved to 108, and within that process of moving from a TR into a standard, now there's some responsibilities for users to actually apply some of those requirements, and that's challenging. So what we're working on right now, ST108 has been out for like 2 years now, right? Yeah. And what we've heard back from the industry is they need more help. So we're currently working on a guidance for the implementation of ST108. And this is TR 119. It's going to be released soon for the committee draft vote 1. The hope is to move it right from committee draft into the final draft and for it to be published this summer. But we're gonna need public comment. So it's gonna come out. It's gonna be here in the next few months. So please watch for that to come out because we need your voice. We know that there's a lot of opportunities within ST108 as you're implementing it. So I encourage everyone to reach out, give us your feedback. We're going to be opening ST108 shortly after we finish TR 119. So there's an opportunity for those revisions to come in and your voice to be continuously heard within the standard development process. So if you're not involved, please do. If you can't get involved, contact us so your voice can be heard and we can bring your comments back into the document upon revision.
Beautiful. And one of the cool things about this standard, as we've seen its evolution for those last 2 years that we were talking about, is the people who are coming back saying, hey, I need help with this and that, some of those are user groups that maybe they were anticipated, but not to the extent that we're seeing, right? Like I've been writing a lot of articles for news that's about this HTM department is using ST108 because X, Y, and Z reasons to work with the rest of their facility. Their departments are having this collaboration and now they're referencing the document, but they're not the level of expertise that we're used to seeing. So, hey, I need a little bit of extra help. We got TIRs coming down the pipeline.
Absolutely. So one of the beautiful parts about ST108 is it really looks at the process holistically. So the idea behind it, and this is what I say to everyone who asks me, what's my first step in implementation? It's putting together that multidisciplinary team. Because in order to be able to do what you need to do to comply with ST108, you really have to have that cross-functional team. So that diversity of thought that's going to come in, be able to give you that expertise. Sometimes it's going to be expertise that you have within your facility, and sometimes it's not. So you have to bring in your water treatment specialists, those people that are helping you design that equipment, to make sure that the continuity is there, the sustainability is there, and the compliance is there. So that really becomes that first step. Yeah. But one thing we did within ST108 that we're finding is challenging for people is we left flexibility in there for a reason. Sure. So that you could take those requirements as fit for purpose.
Yeah, not all departments are created equal.
And then really design that program that works for your facility. So as you're going through that analysis, that multidisciplinary team is really going to give you that ability to use those risk analyses, those fit for purpose sterilization, or excuse me, water processing models, using different technologies to get to the same level of quality of water that's really needed to ensure patient safety.
Hey, that's fantastic. And we'll, of course, as usual, put links in the description for those who are not familiar with the standard. We also have quite a lot of material for people to help understand it from both AAMI News. I think, Terra, you've written a lot for us. There's training.
There's going to be on-demand training now in ST108, so there's a lot of tools out there.
There's a lot of excitement around this standard, which led to some of that recognition we were talking about with the really good work that your committee did under your leadership, and AAMI wanted to recognize that. The other side of it, though, is a lot of your peers came to us wanting to recognize work that you've done outside of that standard sphere. I think the one thing that jumped out to me the most when I was reading the recommendation letters and looking at the awards announcement is that there is now a categorization system for cleaning that is named after you. What is the story behind this? How did that come about?
So for those of you that maybe know me on the water piece, you know that my passion is not water. My passion is actually, I love reusable medical devices and processing them, but I go beyond that, right? So I'm an idea person, I'm a builder, so I like to look at where there are problems and look for how we create solutions that are not only fit for today, but also for the future, and where standards can really play into that. So about 5 years ago now, I had an idea. And the idea was, hey, we really have a strong classification system for microbial reduction, and that's the Spalding classification. So looking at how safe do you have to be from a microbiological quality level in order to ensure patient safety based on how the product is being used. So the concept was really not new. Within the standards development process, we've been playing a lot with this classification because what we found with Spalding is it's a really lovely tool that helps medical device manufacturers connect to the users with a common language around safety when it comes to disinfection or sterilization practices they need to employ for their devices. But what we didn't have was a clean classification system. And that wasn't for lack of trying. What the barrier is these cleaning validations are really expensive. They can be in the neighborhood of, $30,000 to $50,000 a pop.
No kidding.
So when you're starting to look at how do we take this concept of, hundreds of thousands of medical devices that are on the market and put them into something that's as elegant and simple as Spalding. And we've been trying to do that for years, and in fact, Working Group 40 and Working Group 12, they have done a lot trying to kind of tease out these nuances within various standards for years. But the problem statement was, because medical device manufacturers, we over-engineers our IFUs a lot of time because it's so expensive to do these validations that we have to pass the first time, which means we're never challenging these devices to the point of failure. We only challenge them to make sure that they're going to pass.
Right.
So
showcase efficacy.
Absolutely. So this problem statement became very apparent to me as I was working on standards. So I went to my leadership and said, hey, there's a problem. What could Johnson & Johnson do? And what the response back I got was, Terra, this is a PhD. This is not a, J&J is going to do something and publish. This has to be an academic partnership, because what I was talking about was really creating that foundational scientific data set that allowed us to start talking common language. So I spent a year or so looking for a good partnership to be able to do this. That's challenging because lots of academics want to change your idea for whatever they're working on.
Yeah, I should ask, were you already working on your PhD?
I was not.
So
not even a glimmer in my eye. Like, I wasn't thinking about a PhD. Here
That's
I am.
amazing.
I'm 20 years into my career. I'm not going to go get a PhD at this point. And the idea of stopping working and going to a university, which is
it's a big ask.
You can't do that. So Brian McAvoy actually was the first winner, right? And he had a partnership. He had a similar journey actually, where he had an idea, and he went to the Technological University of the Shannon and had a partnership with Dr. Neil Rowan, and they basically went through this journey together. So I was at a Kilmer conference not too many years ago, where Brian shared that he was embarking on this journey.
Yeah, that whole thing.
And so I reached out to Neil as one of the academics that I was looking for, and it was like we clicked. Neil got it because he had been working with Brian so much on the sterilization side that the cleaning side was a natural way for us to move to that next step. So it became a PhD journey for me, as well as an industry journey, as well as a standard journey. So we started with the device feature approach. So taking a cue from sterilization, so if we can identify the hardest to sterilize location of a device, can we do the same on cleaning?
Yeah.
So we validated the device feature approach. There is a publication in BINT that is publicly available that actually shows how we validated this concept, so that we started with, let's make sure that everybody's on the same page. And then we went to, once we could say the device feature approach worked, then we actually built out the most common features that are in reusable medical devices. So we came up with 23 features. And those 23 features then we tested to the point of failure. And then we assessed it based on risk of how likely those devices were going to be able to be cleaned or not. And then we challenged them. And based on that very heavy data set with a lot of samples and over 150 validations we did to get to this, all compliant with AAMI ST108, which is the validation criteria for cleaning, and compliant with the 15883 series, which is washer disinfectors, which really drives a lot of those cleaning requirements. We built this database of data that not only allowed my personal journey of completing my thesis, which was cleaning classification for reusable medical devices, which I was pushed to call it Kremer, so that people could differentiate it from Spalding. So now we have basically this classification system. But what Johnson & Johnson did is they gifted this data to the industry. So my PhD thesis is publicly available.
It's not behind a paywall.
Not behind a paywall. All of this data is publicly available on my LinkedIn profile, as well as all the supporting publications that go with it, including the most recent publication, which is a Nature publication, talking about how these features performed after drying.
Oh, analyses. Okay.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. And we'll put the links to all of those in the description for those who want to find them. But I love watching how research unfolds. So if anybody else likes to do that, we'll definitely check the description there. This is such an amazing story, both because it has a tie back to the previous award winner, which is just, it is a niche community. But yeah, everybody builds each other up. It's incredible. And then on top of all of that, it's also addressing something that, on a very baseline level, our members who are, maybe newest to the industry, always the first question that we tend to get, let's say they are attending a Sterilization Science Week, is, wait, what do you mean there's a distinction when we're talking about clean versus sterile? And it's like, oh, well, look at the massive amount of work, complementary work, but they have to be taken in different directions. And what I found the most interesting of this whole conversation so far was you had to apply this to a massive gauntlet of incredibly different devices. So you were identifying those commonalities, those, I guess, hard to clean nooks and crannies of these devices. How did you go about doing that?
Oh, it was so hard. I think that was the hardest part of the PhD process because, I was under the impression that at some point someone would give me the answer. Nobody did. And unfortunately, I didn't have AI at the point to, really look at the data. So I had to spend a lot of time really evaluating what did the data say? What were the challenges? Were there any biases? How do we get to that kind of piece? And at the end of the day, I am one who, I'm not going to design something brand new. I'm going to stand on people who've come before me because we have amazing experts within our industry that these concepts are not new, just kind of putting them all together. So when I looked at the data set, it really came down to risk. So what's the probability of getting an unclean device? Because Spalding's classification is really built on the assumption that it's clean. So if it's not clean, nothing Spalding identified within his research would work. So it has to be clean first. So when putting together this sort of pathway, I went back to the ISO standards, so 1345, based on risk, and came up with 14 questions that basically, if you can answer these 14 questions, you can categorize the device into one of three categories. So minimal, moderate, or maximal risk. And then those categories basically will drive certain behaviors. So the minimal, maybe you can clean with Minimal instructions. Actually showed in the research that minimal category devices actually are candidates for fully automated cleaning. So no manual manipulation when it comes to flushing or brushing. Whereas moderately challenged devices, you have to have that intervention. And then those maximal risk devices, that's where we get into scopes, robotics, those types of devices where we really need more education. We need more tools for users to be able to be more effective in how we translate what's in the IFU to practical work that results in patient safety.
This is amazing. And it starts with just 14 questions, which
14 questions.
Simplicity, brevity, there's beauty in that. This is really exciting work, and again, links are going to be in the description. So congratulations on that. Congratulations on the PhD journey. So can I now say Dr. Terra Kremer?
Absolutely. I officially walked in 2024, October, so I've been a doctor for a full year now. Nothing feels different. But here I am, and
incredible.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Well, Dr. Terra Kremer, congratulations
Wait,
again.
one more thing.
Oh.
So the classification system is actually being implemented into a standard. So as part of the PhD journey, a new work item proposal was initiated within the ISO committee, and they're working on ISO 17644 Part 3, which is how to put together cleaning classification. And we're working internationally so that the thought process for how you can use Spalding and Kremer together into something that works really well within the standards. So watch for that to come out as well, so that we can really start talking about how we assess risk with devices holistically.
I mean, we're going to see news about it. Follow the AAMI news, or we have our sterilization newsletter. Link for that as well. But Terra, thank you for dropping by, explaining all of this. You're always so good at explaining it with clarity. So keep up the good work, and congratulations once more.
Well, I'll continue to publish, and my commitment to the community is everything is on my LinkedIn, so you'll have access to all of those. And if you're a member of AAMI, I do my best to publish as much as possible in BINT so that we can support the community. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Thanks.